What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Matthew Kaufman. Thank you for clicking on this video. Consider subscribing, give it a like. Today what we're talking about is 5 tips for your first rental. When I first started looking for rental properties, I had absolutely no idea what I was looking for. So since I knew nothing, I started looking. I started reading, I started watching videos, anything I could find. I wanted to try to absorb as much information as I possibly could before I put any money toward anything.
Fun coupons!
Number 1 tip, which is kind of obvious, and that's going to be saving for a down payment. Most cases, you're probably going to need to save somewhere between 20 and 25%, maybe 30% for that down payment. Before you start looking, you're probably going to want to figure out what's going to be the max amount that you're willing to spend on any property. That's one thing I did not do when I first started looking. I kind of just started looking at random properties, not really knowing, what I wanted, how much I was willing to spend. I was kind of just going to it blind.
I'm not blind 23 hours a day or 22 hours a day. I'm blind the whole goddamn time.
If you can't pay cash for the property, which most people probably can unless you got, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 just sitting in the bank, plan to put at least 10% down on the property, at least. More than likely, if you're putting less than 20% down, you're probably gonna pay private mortgage insurance, also known as PMI. And what PMI is, it's gonna be an extra cost that the lender is gonna tack on for each monthly payment. The reason for this is just in case you don't make your payment on your loans. And for the property that I purchased, I put right around 20% down. And talking about your down payment, that's gonna go into number 2, and that's gonna be have reserves. Most small businesses fail due to not having enough money sitting in the bank. They're undercapitalized. And this includes real estate. Every dollar that I've made so far off this property has gone straight into the bank. That money is going to go right back into the house. I'm just going to reinvest it. For myself, I'm probably going to replace the roof on the property probably in the next couple months, honestly. So for me, that's going to cost anywhere between probably $8,000 and $12,000. So what I'm doing now is simply just stacking money as quick as I can to get to the point where I can afford to do that. Cash flow is going to be the income that you make on the property after all expenses. That's going to include rent, the mortgage, insurance, property management if you have it. An example, if you have a property that has rent set at $1,500 per month, mortgage with including the tax and the insurance is going to be about $900. Maintenance costs right around $150 a month. Vacancy allowance is about $150 a month. Once again, property management if you have it, right about $150 a month. After all those expenses I just listed, you're gonna have $150 a month cash flow income. Once again, that's the $1,500 minus all the things that you need to pay for or expect to pay for throughout the month, and that's gonna leave you with $150 a month on that property. Making money on real estate, it's not something you're gonna do straight off the bat at all. You're gonna have a mortgage. At the beginning of that mortgage, you're gonna pay the majority of it. As you get deeper into the mortgage, and eventually to the point where you pay off the entire thing, that's when the real money comes. On the property that I have, if I was to at this point be at the end of my mortgage and have paid it all off, I would be making about $2,700 a month straight to the bank. Once again, that's not reality at all right now. Right now I'm cash flowing right around $700 a month, which in the grand scheme of things is not that bad. I have a 20-year fixed rate mortgage, and my mortgage per month is about $1,250. Once again, that's going to be that $1,250 plus your insurance, your mortgage, taxes, and after all that, I have about $700 left. Once again, like I said, that $700 is going straight into the bank and then eventually straight into what's going to be the new roof on the property. Next up is going to be running the numbers. One thing I've been trying to do and just practice is just running the numbers on just random properties I find online. Not necessarily ones I'm going to purchase, but ones that I just want to kind of learn the process of figuring out the numbers. Because when I get to the point where I buy another property, if I do, I want to really understand that process fully. And when I say running numbers, that's a lot more than simply just plugging numbers into a calculator. You got to know the costs, projections, estimations, and of course the expenses. Figuring out what numbers to look for on a deal is probably the most important thing. But for me, like I said, it's a learning process. It's a learning curve. I'm still learning the whole thing myself. It's definitely the most critical aspect of this business. One thing a lot of people don't think of, and I know I didn't initially when I first started looking, was that you have to look at all just the small, meaningless, miscellaneous costs that are getting tacked on. And that could include commission going to the realtor, that could be the lawyer, that could be the mortgage broker also. You're gonna have commission as well as closing costs. If you've ever closed a real estate deal, go back and look at the HUD1. That's gonna be the settlement statement. This is gonna have all the costs, the expenses, all just broken down for you. Very easy to read, very easy to understand. And these costs might come at a shock to you at the closing when the time comes. And that's why you need to know what to expect and how much it's going to cost. That could be tax escrows, that could be attorney fees, lender fees, insurance costs. All these things add up very quickly. Talking about running the numbers, the best investors are going to know constantly what these numbers are going to be and what's going to be most favorable for them if they were to acquire the property. One thing I heard at one point, which was kind of interesting, and that was you don't make money on real estate from the sell, you make money at the buy. I myself in this property, I was able to acquire the property for $40,000 less than they actually wanted for it initially on the listing. And it's kind of funny because initially the realtor, he thought I was crazy for offering that, but Once again, it's all situational. Luckily, myself and the seller, we kind of went back and forth on a couple numbers, and soon enough, he settled and we got the number that we wanted. The great thing about being the buyer is everything's in your favor, meaning if you don't like the deal, you walk away. It's simple as that. It's the buyer's decision whether he's going to be willing to sell that property for X amount. You have to know the absolute max as to what you're willing to spend. And if you don't know that and you're just going to let emotion kind of take over, you're probably going to lose money. Next up, that's going to be number 4, and that's going to be start small. Some people might tell you otherwise. They might say, no, on your first deal, you need to go for, a 10, a 20, a 30, a 40, a 50 unit potentially. In my situation, this is a 3-unit building with a 2-car garage attached. And once again, I'm no professional, but my opinion, I would say start off buying a 1 to 4 unit rental property. Something that does not need a full rehab, meaning you're going to tear the entire thing to the ground and build back up. Because if you're doing that and you're not really familiar with the process, you're probably going to lose money and you're going to have a lot of headaches in the process. For me, like I said, this is a 3-unit building. Great thing about this property is that there was no structural damage, there was no termite damage, and those 2 things, everything that I've read, that should be the number 1 issue. If you find that issue, such as termite damage being probably the most important and most dangerous thing to come across, that's a reason to walk away from a property, regardless of how good the deal might be. Because if you have legitimate structural damage, foundational damage, that's going to be a whole lot of problems for you. And all these small things are what you're going to find through the inspection for the property. And one thing I definitely recommend when you're doing the inspection, don't just hire a guy, have him do his thing, and then leave. What myself and my dad did when it was the day for the inspection, we were standing next to the guy the entire time because we wanted to kind of learn, what he was looking for, what he was finding, obviously. And if he found something, we would ask, how can we fix that? What should be the process? And he's more than willing to help because we're paying him. He's obviously on the job. For me, I think the inspection cost, I want to say it was like $450. And that's probably going to be the most important money you're going to spend prior to actually closing and signing on the property. Next up, number 5, the last one, that's going to be patient. Right now, it's February 2020. The real estate market is still hot. The economy is still going up. Once again, obviously, it's not going to continue going up forever. It's definitely going to come down eventually, but I'm not going to go into that at all. The thing is, you need to understand, once again, you need to be patient. Don't lower the criteria as to what you're looking for, meaning don't change the max amount that you're willing to spend for the property. And most of all, you can't become emotional or attached to a property.
Are you crying?
No.
Are you crying? Are you crying?
Quick story about this property. When I was first shown the property, it was perfect. It was a 3-unit, 2-car garage, long driveway, plenty of off-street parking, and location was perfect. So after about a couple days, I talked over with my family, kind of figured out the process and what I was going to do. I eventually put an offer in, and I eventually found out that somebody else was bidding back and forth with me. The other person outbid me. Once again, I didn't raise the max amount I was willing to spend. That was my number, and I wasn't going to go higher than that. So I got outbid. The property went to the other person, and I figured the property was gone. That was it. I was going to look for other places. Lo and behold, about 2 months later, I was still looking for a property because I hadn't kind of found the perfect one yet, and I wasn't willing to settle once again. I get a call from the realtor.
Who there called me in the night show? Hello?
He's like, hey, that property we looked at, it's back on the market. I was so shocked. It made no sense to me. The guy pretty much told me that a day or 2 before that person was supposed to sign a contract for the property and take a hold of it, their loan fell through. And when it comes to a loan falling through, that could be a lot of things. That person, during the loan process, 30 to 60 days depending, that could be the person might have changed jobs. They opened a credit card. They closed a credit card. They opened a bank account. They closed the bank account. Whatever what it was, their loan fell through. And for me, I was giddy with joy because I was, once again, this is the property that I was really into when I first saw it. When you first see a property and you get that kind of feeling, once again, not that emotional feeling, but you feel like that's the one. And that's the feeling I had. So it sucked that it did fall through. 2 months later, this person's loan fell through. Realtor said, hey, it's back on the market. Do you want it? I was like, absolutely. So before, like I said, we went back and forth on the cost. We were at about a $10,000 difference as to what the seller wanted and what I was willing to spend on it. And when you're going back and forth on price, start lower than what you're willing to pay. For me, I started right around $10,000 lower than what I was actually willing to pay for the property. Because once again, you want wiggle room for that. As he starts high, you're starting low. And eventually you're gonna be in the middle. And that's what happened. And eventually he agreed on that. As we all know, cash is king. If you don't have enough cash, you got nothing. If you don't have enough cash yet, that means you have an earning and a saving problem, not an investing problem. If buying real estate is what you want to do, you need to start saving money. You put it in the bank, you let it sit there. And slowly you're just constantly putting into it and putting into it and putting into it. After months, after a couple years maybe, you might have a proper amount for that down payment. Once again, hopefully you're having right around 20%, but more than likely you have about 25 to 30%. Just in case you need more. So we got saving for a down payment, having reserves of cash, learning how to run numbers on the properties, start small, and be patient. One of the hardest things you're gonna do is simply just doing it, is starting the process. For me, it was terrifying buying my first property. I was 27 years old, still 27, 26. I'm 26, wow, I'm 27. I'm 27 years old. And And the money that I used put down on the property was money I had been saving since I was 16 years old from my first job. So that's a long time coming of simply just saving and saving and saving. I just want to say thanks for watching, guys. Once again, my name is Matthew Kaufman. Consider subscribing, give it a like. We'll talk soon. Take care.